Today's sponsor is Ava. Did you start trying for a baby thinking that ovulation was your one and only chance each cycle? It's not. In fact, there are 6 days a cycle when it's possible to conceive, the 5 leading up to ovulation, and the day of ovulation itself. So how can you make use of that fertile window when you don't even know you're in it? That is when AVA comes in. AVA is a sensor bracelet that detects subtle changes in your vital signs that correspond with the opening and closing of the fertile window. All you have to do is wear AVA while you sleep and sync to the app in the morning to see 5 of those fertile days as they're happening. And right now, it is $20 off for the Sisters in Loss listeners. Just use the code AVASisters at avawoman.com. Once again, use the code AVASisters or AVASISTERS at avawoman.com. Welcome to episode 201 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, also known as PCOS, is a condition that affects a woman's hormone levels. Women with PCOS produce higher than normal amounts of male hormones. This hormone imbalance causes their body to skip menstrual cycles and makes it harder for them to get pregnant. Since childhood, today's guest knew that she wanted to become a mother. However, in 2007, she was diagnosed with PCOS, tipping the scale of an alarming 419 pounds. Her chances of becoming a mother were non-existent until she decided to have bariatric surgery. In 2017, Kameika Hinson became pregnant before losing her baby to a miscarriage. Although heartbroken, her calling for God to help others became clear. In today's episode, Kameika takes us back to being diagnosed with PCOS, how she made the decision to have bariatric surgery, the excitement of getting pregnant, and miscarrying her son, Jeremiah. This episode is for you to listen to if you have PCOS, have considered weight loss surgery, and how to turn your pain into purpose with a nonprofit in memory of your angel baby. Here is Kameika Hinson.
Well, thank you, Kameika, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, my name is Dr. Kameika Hinson, and I am your grief coach and midwife of purpose. I teach high-achieving professional Christian women who have experienced pregnancy or infant loss, how to cope with the loss, and heal by faith. I do this by teaching them ways to heal from emotional trauma and activate their faith through purpose discovery. So that was just an introduction. So a little bit about myself. Basically, I am a woman who has experienced miscarriage, and I decided to become a grief coach because I felt like that was my purpose.
Nice. So yes, take us back on that journey, your journey to motherhood, and share with us your loss story.
When I was a child, I knew I wanted to become a mother. I was the neighborhood babysitter, and I just knew I wanted to have a child of my own, but I was overweight. So I was trying to have a child, trying to get pregnant while I was in college, or right after I graduated from college. But then I found out that I had PCOS, which is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome. And it makes it really hard for you to get pregnant. I went to my OBGYN and I decided to go to a fertility specialist. Well, they gave me some medicine. I think they gave me metformin to try to regulate my hormones, but I was also overweight. And when I did not get pregnant, I started to gain more weight. I actually tipped the scale at 419 pounds. I decided to have weight loss surgery so that I could get pregnant, and I got pregnant. And then I had a miscarriage at about 7 weeks. And that was the most devastating event that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, so take us through that journey. Did you go to the emergency room? Did you actually have a miscarriage at home? How was that process for you?
Well, I actually started bleeding, I would say around week 3 or 4. I did not know I was pregnant at the time, though. I had gone to the emergency room. I felt like something was wrong, and they sent me back home, basically saying that I was dehydrated but I was actually pregnant. So something just told me that something was not right. So I took my own pregnancy test and it came up positive. Shortly after that, I started bleeding. So I went to the emergency room. I did a emergency ultrasound and I got a chance to see my baby. Well, then I went home and everything was fine, but I was still bleeding a little bit. And then one day I passed a clot, what I thought was a clot. I was nervous. I actually grabbed the clot out of the toilet and I decided to examine it. It was wrapped in a really nice casing. And I saw something that looked like an umbilical cord, but I wasn't really sure. So I immediately went into denial. I threw it back in the toilet and I flushed it because in my mind, that was not my baby. So I told my sisters what happened and they told me to go to the emergency room. I went to the emergency room that day and this was like peak flu season. A lot of people were in the emergency room and they were just taking too long. They had drawn my blood, started an IV, but they were taking too long. So I left. I told them I don't have time for this. I did not have a miscarriage. I got to go to work tomorrow. I left. I went to sleep and I went to work the next day. My coworkers made me go back to the emergency room. I went to the emergency room after work and they did another ultrasound. And I noticed that this ultrasound looked a little different. But the ultrasound tech would not tell me what was going on. So I went back in the room and waited for the doctor. And she told me that I was no longer pregnant, that I had a miscarriage. I didn't feel any pain at first. They kept asking me, was I in pain? And I said, no, I'm not in pain. Just please tell me that I did not have a miscarriage. Well, when the doctor told me, it was like my body had been hit by a truck. And yeah, oh my goodness, I think I cried for a year straight every day.
Wow. So they didn't have to go back and do a DNC. Were you able to do like a follow-up appointment to make sure everything was good because of your PCOS?
No, I didn't have to do a DNC. I did have to follow up with my OBGYN. They did a pelvic exam and they just wanted to make sure that my levels were dropping. My HCG levels were dropping back to normal to make sure that I actually had a complete miscarriage.
Yes. So after that, and you really spent the next year just really grieving, how did you move past it, where you felt like you didn't have to cry, every day because you were so devastated?
I actually went to counseling. I started going to counseling because I knew my hormones were all over the place and I didn't know what exactly to do. But someone made a comment to me that maybe I should have been married before trying to get pregnant anyway. And that that just pushed me over the edge. Like I felt like I'm about to lose my mind. I'm about to have a nervous breakdown and somebody's going to get hurt in the process. So I started going to counseling. But I also heard from God after it happened. I asked God, why did he allow me to go through all of the things that I went through, the weight loss surgery and all of that? Let me get pregnant and then take my baby away from me. And it was because he told me very clearly that it was because I had not done what he had told me to do. And that's when I knew that it was my purpose. But I still had to work through all of these things because I was still upset. I get what he was saying to me, but I was still upset. So going to counseling really helped me to sort through all of my feelings and emotions that I was having. And I did some other things. I started a support group. I wasn't healed when I started the support group, but my counselor wanted me to go to a support group, and I had trouble finding one. So I decided to create one. This was all still during the year where I was crying every day. And I basically I had to renew my faith, reactivate my faith with God.
Absolutely. So how really did you lean into your faith along with the support group and help with a therapist? How did you get to a point where you weren't mad at God anymore?
I had to turn that negative into a positive. I did a balloon release. I had to understand that I had to go through what I went through to create the nonprofit organization that I have today, to be able to help other women to cope with their loss and heal by faith. So it became bigger than me, basically. It became purpose, my purpose from God. And I just had to change my way of thinking. I had to do some mindset work.
Today's sponsor is Ava Woman. Did you start trying for a baby thinking that ovulation day was your one and only chance each cycle? It's not. In fact, there are 6 days a cycle when it's possible to conceive, the 5 leading up to ovulation and the day of ovulation itself. So how can you make use of that full fertile window when you don't even know you're in it? This is where Ava comes in. It's a sensor bracelet that detects subtle changes in your vital signs that correspond with the opening and closing of the fertile window. All you have to do is wear Ava while you sleep and sync the app in the morning to see 5 of those fertile days as they're happening. Ava is better than other methods because LH tests can only tell you 1 or 2 fertile days. Taking your temperature only lets you know after you've ovulated, so it's not helpful in real time. And period tracker apps only guesstimate your fertility based on genetic averages. Plus, Ava's technology has been clinically tested and cleared by the FDA. So if you're trying to get pregnant, remember you've got more than just ovulation day to play with. Let Ava tell you your best 5 days to conceive. And right now, it is $20 off for Sisters in Loss listeners. Just use the code AVASISTERS at avawomen.com. That is AVASISTERS, AVASISTERS at avawomen.com.
You said you started this support group. Does the support group meet in person, or were they all meeting online when you initially started it? And then take us through kind of what you have done up until now, especially through COVID-19 with your support group.
Okay. With my support group started as a connect group at church, but I noticed that a lot of people were still shying away from my group because of the topic. Miscarriages and infant loss is still sort of taboo. So it was supposed to be in person, but a lot of them sent me a message on Facebook, and I just decided to turn it into a Facebook support group. As of right now, the support group is still available, but I'm still having troubles getting people to actually open up. They'll open up to me more so on my public page than in the group. So I've got to figure out a way to basically make that connection, like see what's really going on with the Connect group. Since the Connect group, I have came up with a program called Guilt to Greatness. And this is a part of my grief coaching called Guilt to Greatness. And basically, I give the women strategies on how to overcome the guilt, because I found that guilt is the number one thing that women suffer from after miscarriage. They feel like it was something that they did or something they could have done better. And they basically carry around a lot of guilt. And I help them to realize that all things happen for a reason. And you can live a life of greatness after experiencing a traumatic loss like that.
That is amazing. And having a sense of community and somewhere people can go to talk about that and not, like you said, not feel guilty is so needed, especially as people are navigating through this pandemic and in the process of trying to conceive or wanting having a baby or getting pregnant on their vision board and goals for 2021. So I would love for you to talk about any other tools or resources that you've used, that you've shared in your group, or that you really share with the people that you work with that have really helped you and helped others on their healing journey.
Okay, so through my Guilt to Greatness program, the G stands for gratitude, the U stands for understanding, the I stands for impact, the L stands for love, and the T stands for tenacity. So basically, you've got to be grateful for what you do have. Don't focus on what you don't have or what you lost. You got to be grateful. You've got to understand that all things happen for a reason. You've got to love yourself. You've got to find a way to turn the negative into a positive and make a positive impact, because all things happen for a reason. And tenacity. You must have tenacity when doing all of this stuff. I had to have tenacity because there were so many times that I wanted to give up. Starting this company and writing this program, it was hard. It was hard, and I wanted to give up. But I had to make myself understand that I had to have my tenacity, because this is what God has called me to do. I also teach them to write a letter. Words are so powerful, especially written words. Write a letter to the child that they lost, and write one to future children if they so desire. I've also taught them to make a memorial, sort of like, I actually have a tattoo on my back, and it's a picture of my baby. It's a picture of a baby. And it has angel wings, Jeremiah 1:5, and the date that I lost my baby. They don't have to do something as big as that. They can just light a candle in remembrance of their child. But I teach them to turn it into a positive. Don't just sit in that sorrow, because it's going to keep you stuck.
So good. So, what encouraging words can you leave with our listeners, those who are trying to conceive, those who are in the waiting period, those who may have like PCOS or other underlying conditions as they battle this journey? Encouraging words can you leave with our listeners?
The most encouraging thing I can leave with the listeners is to not give up. Do not give up. I had a whole weight loss surgery, and the surgery took about 10 years maybe, but I wrote about all of that in my book. So it took me about 10 years to actually have the surgery to get pregnant, but I did not give up. Now that I know that I can get pregnant, I'm still not giving up. I've dyed my hair colors of the rainbow because I know that God is going to give me my rainbow child. It may not come in the form that I think I want it to come in, but I know that He's going to give me the desires of my heart. Don't give up. And I would also like to say, greatness is not a destination. It's a continuous journey that never ends.
Awesome. So where can our listeners connect with you and your support group after this episode?
They can reach me on Facebook, social media. Facebook, I am Dr. Kameika Hinson. On Instagram, I am at Future Dr. Cam and JJ2 Healing Ministries on social media. And for my support group, it's bit.ly/JJH support group. And if anyone would like to enroll into my program, my Guilt to Greatness program, it is bit.ly/bookcoachcam.
Thank you so much, Kameika, for sharing your story with us. I know that it is going to be a blessing to someone who hears it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. There are so many ways to connect with the Sisters in Loss community. Join our monthly support group, our Sisters in Loss Healing Collective at sistersinlosshealing.com. Join our free Facebook group at sistersinloss.com/community, or text sisters to 797979 to download your free Journal to Healing ebook. That is sisters to 797979 to download your free Journal to Healing ebook. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sisters in Loss, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah, girl, we on YouTube at Sisters in Loss TV. We love you for listening. Keep the faith. Until next time, this is Erica, and I'll talk to you soon.